Welcome to another episode of the Metal Roundup with myself, Steve OG, Metal Burb, and Drew Fortune. And ordinarily, we're here to round up the latest happenings in the metal music scene, which we will attempt to do, but there hasn't been that much going on in the metal scene recently. But we have a few things we want to chat about. There's more general, ongoing topics here. But first of all, Burb, how are we doing, sir? Anything interesting in your world lately in terms of music? What you've been up to yourself?
In terms of music, no, because I I was on vacation and we were literally just talking about how it's a great week to miss because there hasn't been too many releases. But no, I was in Mexico visiting family and it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of tequila, I had a lot of tacos, and actually I'm suffering from a little bit of a cold because of it. I could have got it from the hurricane too, so I was in a hurricane, so that was cool. But yeah, I came back trying to find some new music to cover, and it looks like there's you know what? Actually, tomorrow, Friday, July 12th, which is also my birthday, there's a lot of album releases. So it's quiet right now, but tomorrow seems pretty stacked. But that's just how I'm doing. How about you, Drew?
Yeah, man, I'm not going to be able to top being in a hurricane, but, things have been all right for me as well. Like you said, there's not been much queued up over the last while in terms of music. But yeah, tomorrow I think there's a few releases. There's some kind of like under the radar releases that I'm looking at tomorrow as well. But I think we've had a pretty slow last couple of weeks. It seems to just go like that. We have insane amounts of releases at the same time. And then all of a sudden it's right, a couple of weeks of trying to just, scrape content or just scrape things to talk about in terms of interesting bands that are dropping or, but that's good, I know. Sometimes you get so busy that you don't actually have a chance to, in terms of the drops, you actually wish it would just slow down a bit. And then when it gets to these moments, you're kind of on the other end of the thing. So, but yeah, other than that, I'm pretty much the same, just chilling as usual. Nothing crazy in my world.
It was just before doing this chat. I was like, yeah, what has been released in the last 3 weeks? I'm looking back to my videos. I'm like, there's been lots of stuff, but pretty much everything I've been putting out has been older music. There hasn't been that much. It's been new release, one or two things maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a bit slow.
Yeah.
I guess the labels are not coordinating with each other to try and space things out with the year. I'm sure a lot of them are just wringing their hands when they're like, right, okay, in 2 months' time, we're going to release the brand new Knocked Loose. And then they find out later on another massive band is Bring Me the Horizon is going to release at the same time. They're probably all camps are going, fuck.
Yeah. Well, no one could have predicted that Bring Me drop, to be honest.
No.
What was the other album that dropped on that same day?
Oh,
I felt so bad for them. It was that was a full-on planned release, and then it would just... Was it? No, it wasn't Alpha Wolf. Alpha Wolf and Error, I think, were on the same day or something like that. But anyway, it was just an unfortunate band is the name of that band. What about you, Steve? What's been going on in your world?
I mean, same old. Being a dad every day. Trying to check out some new music and stuff. It's very important. It's very busy at times. It's very tiring. But here in the UK, they're losing their minds because the Euros are on, the soccer tournament, and England are doing well. So that's dominating all of the conversation in Britain. Well, I say Britain, England.
There's Copa America too. I watched the Canada versus Argentina game, which was pretty entertaining.
Nice. Yeah, I think the final of that is on Sunday, as is the final of the Euros and the final of Wimbledon. If you're a fan of sports, your head's going to explode.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's not be good.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, in terms of music that has come out in the last 3 weeks or so, I mean, my favorite is Bilmuri. So Bilmuri dropped an album. It's not necessarily metal. There's some metal influences in there. Obviously, he was in Attack, which has some metal-y moments. But for me, I will be very surprised if anything else comes out and beats that for my album of the year. But I'm a sucker for pop choruses and very, at times formulaic song structures and things, but just delivers with hooks, and the drums are gorgeous and the lyrics are devastating. I just think it's amazing. That's been my favorite thing in the last 3 weeks. I know Nothing More has had an album come out. I've not heard that yet. The best new release for me, though, was in terms of individual songs, might have been Alt Remnant. That was a very good track. I don't know, Burb, if you had a chance to check that one out. Was that before your holiday?
Oh yeah, I checked out the Alt Remnant. I checked out the Nothing More album too. Nothing More album's good. It sounds a little commercial at times, I guess, which took me out of it a little bit. Very, very polished. But Bilmuri, Bilmuri's awesome. It took me a while to really appreciate his music. I think I've heard a lot of songs from his previous albums, and they're fun and they're quirky, and his sense of humor is just so unique, right? But it was this new record that's mixing country rock and a little bit of metal and some emo, was just such a cool combination of everything that to me, I'm like, okay, this is a Bilmuri that I really, really enjoy. And he's bridging that gap between country and metal or rock that we really need. You know, there's already Hardy, there's some other artists, but I feel like Bilmuri really is showing like the emo pop punkers. Country music's good, right? It's basically a country album, but with like, instead of like, it's more like emo style vocals rather than just like, hey, I'll run my tractor.
Yes,
like,
good point.
It's just a totally different vocal style that actually resonates with us, like our community.
A larger demographic of people, I think.
Larger? You think it's larger, the style of Bilmuri?
In terms of the country side of things, because country is largely going to be the Americans' demographic would be more interested in that as a familiar sound. Most of the world is not listening to country twang because it's not really in the sort of the culture as much. So Bilmuri's vocal delivery is a little bit more in the middle, kind of in radio pop delivery, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just know, I guess, like being where I'm at, growing up in the country, it's everywhere.
Right, I see.
It's that Chad Kroeger style of vocal, right? You love Nickelback too.
You recently looked into checking out Nickelback, right? I saw your video on that.
Okay, so look, dude, this video, it was just a random idea. I think it was us talking about it. Yeah, actually, the idea came from our conversation, trying to figure out content ideas. Like, oh, you shouldn't like just listen to things that you don't normally listen to. I'm like, okay, Nickelback. Nickelback is hated just as much as they are loved. In my area too, because they're so overplayed in Canada since they're a Canadian band. So they get a lot of hate. And I'm part of that hate club too. And then there's a Netflix documentary that dropped on the same day as my video. I'm like, this wasn't timed or planned. It just worked out pretty well. But I'm glad that you watched that video because I thought that video was a banger. There's a couple videos that I'm sure that you guys agree that like, oh, this is a good piece of content. You put it out there. Fortunately, doesn't get as many clicks that you would like, and then you're like, damn it. So for people listening, watch my Nickelback video because I put a lot of time and effort into it. Even if you don't, or if you love or hate Nickelback, it's still a good video in my opinion, but I'm biased.
I would agree. What's unfortunate for yourself is the hits from Nickelback are largely like their ballads, which is not why people say like, oh, fucking Nickelback's amazing. Yes, they write lovely ballads, but there's like Burn It to the Ground, I think was the first one you checked out, and that is the ilk of what Nickelback can do, and it's worth going down the rabbit hole a little bit more. But yeah, and I think I noticed in your editing, the songs grow. The more you hear them, you're like, this is like absolute gold at times. But also, it can be a little bit bland and samey. I don't know that it would be a normal experience to be listening to Nickelback with an audience because it's kind of hard to analyze what is very cookie cutter kind of exact songwriting, and it's quite ballady, and the lyrics are a little bit cringe at times. But just let it fester and enjoy it over time.
Like I said, I like cheese. Cheese is good. Nickelback is pure cheese to me.
Yes, I'm fat. Drew, have you listened to much Nickelback?
No, I'm just thinking here, man. My homework for the next podcast has to be apparently listen to Nickelback's discography and Bilmuri. The two I just need to get into. Bilmuri, definitely. I'm gonna do my best to check out. What's the name of the latest album that you guys are mad on?
American Motorsports.
Right.
So I want to put together
like 30 minutes or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 28 minutes long.
Right,
but I wonder, I kind of want to, as you would with a friend, I want to give you like a specific playlist of entry points. Like your first song should be this one, your second one should be this one, or do you just want to go in?
I think, look, I'm open, man. Like, I mean, I think I'm at a point in like, I don't want to be dramatic, but like at the moment, I'm just not really feeling a lot of like metalcore and shit like that. There's some like really fun like thall. To be honest, a lot of my favorite songs over the last while have actually been like kind of thall tracks, or I guess metalcore tracks with thall music really like deeply infused in it. And that's like not. I really enjoyed thall, then I kind of went off it, and now I'm kind of coming back to it a little bit, like real progressive thall music. So, at the moment, I'm kind of more into really quirky stuff. Like there's a few albums that I listened to recently that are like albums that I've been told to listen to for so long, and I think if I listened to them like a year and a half ago, they would have hit so much harder. I listened to Aviana Corporation, and I listened to Bury Tomorrow, The Seventh Son, is that the name? Yeah, I listened to those two albums recently, which were like albums that I've been asked to check out for so long. And like I said, man, I think if I just checked them out a while back, I would have been so much more into them. But just where I'm at the moment, they weren't bad. And I can understand that. Like in metalcore terms, they're like solid fucking albums. But just for what I'm looking for at the moment, it just didn't elicit any emotions in me. And I guess with something like Bilmuri, the way you guys are describing it, even if it's not necessarily something that I love, I'm just in the mood for a little bit of a different taste, just to kind of take me away from that, like,
You're
kind of.
so ready. You're ready.
I feel like I'm ready. I feel like I'm in a place,
You need something
just
fresh.
go with the latest album. There's a playlist on YouTube that they put out, which is the 28-minute album, and it goes in between either visualizers or music videos. So just rock that on and
albums are a great way, I think, to get into an artist as well, because I think the few singles I listen to, especially if you're like live on Twitch or something when we're listening to music, the experience is different to when you actually sit down with an album in your own headspace and you can take your time and you're not like under the pressure. Not that there's pressure, but you know what I mean? When it's on Twitch, it's like kind of, listen, go, listen, go, listen, go. You're kind of like trying to be entertaining and high energy and keep things moving. Whereas on Patreon, I literally don't really edit my videos. It's like start, waffle for 15 minutes, go through the album at my own pace. And people, if they don't want to watch it, they can skip forward. It's up to them, you know what I mean? But I leave it there like pretty much uncut for people to just listen to me ramble and like really get my thoughts out. And I really just enjoy, I feel like I'm like really taking in the intended experience when I listen to it in album format. And I know that's always been my take. I've always enjoyed sitting down and listening to albums, but I think as of late, it's like really coming back full circle for me. I'm like, yes, I need to just focus on more albums, because at the moment singles aren't doing it as much for me. And I find that when I listen to certain singles, I'm like, meh. And then I hear them in the context of that album and I'm like, kind of wish I never heard the single, because now it's hitting a little bit harder,
Yeah, it's funny that you checked out Aviana and Barry Tomorrow's albums too. And for someone who's a little bit fatigued by metalcore, which I totally resonate with, I'm like, yeah, those records. Like I saw Barry Tomorrow live, like super nice guys. I talked to them backstage, and they put on a great show. But like after like the first 4 songs, which sounded amazing, I'm like, the rest of the set list would sound the same to me. Yeah. And then like Aviana, like they pretty much follow a lot of the same patterns in their music that I got quite fatigued. I just feel like metalcore music has not been exciting lately. And actually, I made a video of like the top best albums of 2024 so far, and the comments got heated because I put like Moss of Flames and Era in C, and everyone's like, no, it's an S. And then even people saying like, I'm pretty sure Metal Burb doesn't even like metal. Like, yeah. And I'm just like, maybe I just am bored of a lot of the metalcore. If I hear genty guitars with some tapping riffs and some intricate drumming, like sure, they're technically really proficient, but and then the same kind of emotional screamy vocal and high pitched singing and like the distorted sing scream, like I've been hearing this stuff for years, man. It doesn't hit. Like I understand that the metalcore audience like eats it up, but I think I'm just craving something fresh. And I feel like Drew, I think you're kind of saying the same thing too, because like there is some cool fall projects. Like you made a video on Dolly Thundering Concept, right? And that new song was pretty freaking sick. It's pretty metalcore leaning, but it has some more interesting ideas than I hear than other metalcore bands at the moment. So, but they're like, no one talks about them because they're so underground.
They're a fucking fantastic project as well. Like, have you heard their 2 prior albums, Burp? Have you heard the what are they called? Oh, I can't remember the names of the 2 prior albums, but their 2 last albums, even that single, as far as they go, is pretty like tame for what they do. They do some fucking insane stuff. I think it's Savages is one of them.
Yeah.
And Almighty Man.
Almighty Man, bro. Yeah, the song "The Sea Starts Here" with Rio from Crystal Lake is like one of the coolest tracks. Like,
and it has that like really weird experimental section towards the end. Oh my god, that's one of my favorite fucking songs I've heard in a long time. Yeah, but that's like another really experimental band. Now, in saying that, their latest song I did really enjoy because I just fuck with them. I just have a bias towards them because I loved their 2 albums prior to that. But I am really looking forward to like, hearing what they have coming up next. And again, I kind of mentioned that with, like I mentioned a minute ago when I actually checked out that song, I kind of said to myself, you know what? I feel like I would have appreciated this more if I just waited until the album comes out, because this band, their concepts and shit are just so fucking cool. If you guys haven't heard, I don't know, Burb, if you have or not, but the last album, Almighty Man, is one of the most mental concepts I've ever experienced in an album. Are you familiar with the rough idea of the concept of that last album, or?
Yeah, I did an album reaction to it.
You did a album, yeah. So like, I probably wouldn't have like known much about it, but I was specifically told when I was checking it out to like make sure you look up what the theme of it is, and it's like basically follows the life cycle of like a paper or a plastic straw, like literally a straw that you drink from. It's
What?
I know that sounds mental, but the way it's just go listen to
An
it. Go look at the
emotional fairy
concept.
tale.
Yeah, it's so
They even
silly.
made
Like,
a video game.
yeah, when I say it out loud, I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about? But like, I know it sounds mental, but like the music is so good. The rhythms that they come out with, the tones of their guitars, some of the like kind of experimental trap sections that they have, the hip hop infused section, like they're very experimental, which is, yes, they are kind of, I guess, a metalcore band, but they've like galvanized themselves in all these fucking really cool experimental traits that they have. And which is why when that latest single Nobody came out, I was like, yes, cool. They have a cool section in it, but it's still a little bit too just plain old metalcore for me, and I wish they'd just go away. But I'm sure they'll have loads whenever they put out a new project. Yeah, but Steve, you got to check out. Do you know what the C Starts Here is the song I think you need to check out. I think you'll really like that one. That's the one that Bird was mentioning. Just as a song, that's so cool.
Fair enough.
I agree. The new song was a little bit more like point A to point B metalcore, and I thought it was cool because they're usually a little bit weirder like that. But like, yeah, it's not like my favorite song from them. I love it when they get weird, but I think them getting weird is a little bit too weird for the demographic. Like, C Starts Here. If you do check it out, Steve, like, awesome song, but it only has 46,000 views in 2 years, which like they're very unknown band, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I mean, we're going to get on to an interesting topic kind of from this, I think, a little bit, but I'm not too worried about total fatigue for me with metalcore. I think there are very boring, oh, that sounds really harsh. There are somewhat not as exciting metalcore songs or bands, and I would put Bury Tomorrow in one of those. I don't think that's whether you have listened to a bunch of metalcore before or even if that one of your first bands you hear. I think they're a little bit on the generic side and not even in necessarily a satisfying way. Because like Memphis May Fire are very generic, but they're quite satisfying with their melodies. Their songwriting is quite tight. Bury Tomorrow I'm finding just to be, it's the right elements. They got all the right personnel to make a good metalcore band, but they're just putting out songs, but they're not really interesting to me. So I don't think they're necessarily an example of how like metalcore is not progressing. Because there's a lower barrier to entry, which we're going to talk about a bit more in a minute. So you're going to get many more bands entering metalcore. It's a very popular genre to be in. And you're going to have a difference between those who essentially will try to emulate what they've heard before. Because like, I love that band. I want to sound like that. My version of success would be if I can be in a band like that and tour and the rest and make that sound. But what sparks interest to us are the ones that are different. And either that is just incredibly refined, creative, interesting delivering of songwriting, like a band I discovered recently called Elwood Stray, our metalcore band. They're fucking great. Also, Oralize, brand new band. It's very metalcore, but it's so interesting and really well delivered. Those still exist. You just have to hunt through a little bit more of the bales of hay to find those these days. I think just because of the absolute massive supply of a lot of these things. But also, I mean, some bands, I don't know why I'm calling them out, but like Bury Tomorrow, I've listened for many years, and I think they're just not as interesting generally for me in my taste, and perhaps it's similar for you and your taste. Some people will think they're their favorite band in the world, and it's absolutely fine because it's exactly a particular sound that they do again and again and again. But for those that like more of the variety of things, I think it's not a wild take to say that it's not that interesting, even if you're a fan of metalcore.
Yeah, like you're not calling them out. I mean, I think the thing for me was that like, I've been hearing about that album in particular since it came out in 2023, but I just never found time or that much interest because I'd never heard them before to get around to it. So I put up like a poll on my Patreon to just basically say, hey, look, here's a list of fucking 25 albums I've been hearing about for the longest time. Pick one. And this one, like, won by a significant margin. There was some big albums in there. Steve, Straight from the Past is in there as well. I know you wanted that album, so it won over this. So, I was like, right, I've been in that position before where I get like a resounding yes for a particular album, and then I just end up being like, lads, I've missed the boat on this album. It's obviously just missed me, and that's okay. You know what I mean? But I think it's just, you do feel like you are somewhat in the wrong when you see such high praise for it. You know what I mean? You're kind of like, wait, am I the problem here? But it's just you just so
It
happen to
takes-
have. That's what I mean. Like, so I mean, you calling them out, like you kind of said, like, you're not being disrespectful by saying you just didn't enjoy their album or whatever. But I think when you do listen to so much like metalcore that like we have or we do, it's like I'm actually a really simple listener, and I always say this, and then my like people who watch me kind of like slag me and they say, bro, you are not like an easy person to please. But I think I genuinely am, and I always try and like break it down into like 3 important pillar stones in the music that I listen to, whether it be just have an undeniable melody. I know it might be asking much, but the 3 pillar stones
shouldn't be asking
like,
much.
no, but you know what I mean, like the like 3 pillar stones that I follow, and all it has to do is have one, and the track I will go back to: an undeniable groove, an undeniable melody, or just something that is maybe like a little bit outside of or a little bit off the beaten trail. For example, the metalcore bands that happen to be doing a lot of like experimentation towards the bridge of their song, where they just throw in like a little drum and bass section or something EDM, just to like throw you off what you expect. Because for the most part, North Lane, Revenue did a fucking brilliant like drum and bass electronic section at the end of their My Old Me, the most recent song they put out. That one, like, they've been a really fun band to listen to, but again, they've touched on all the different kind of like pillar stones. They haven't really, they're not like a groovy band much. They have groovier sections, but melody has been a big part of their rise for me. They've had some fantastic choruses, but this one was the first time that they kind of took me out of my expectations with them, because I was expecting big chorus from these guys. It's kind of what I want, and then the bridge instead of the breakdown, or the breakdown, the drum and bass section instead of the breakdown. I was like, yes, just something different, you know. Very simple. The song isn't like the most experimental at the start and the middle. It's just they do something slightly different, and then I'm like, yeah, clicked. You know, that's it. So I feel like I'm easy to please, but people maybe see it otherwise. You know.
I can't wait for you to hear Bilmuri, man. I'm so stoked about that. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to talk about here is, and it's not really metal news, but recently in music news, it's been going off on the internet a little bit, is Rick Beato, who is a very successful YouTuber in the music space, very knowledgeable musician, and has lots of really interesting videos. He had one recently, which was called something like, and I should look up the actual title.
I think it was
like
music,
Why Music is Getting Worse.
Why music?
Yeah.
And so that's quite interesting. And I watched that video, and I had so many thoughts about it. And essentially go and watch that video if you want. You can pause this podcast, go watch that, and come back to us and we chat this through. But the essence of the argument appears to be that as technology progresses that assists music is getting worse on a few different areas. It's like it's lower barrier to entry to make and create music is less expensive because everyone can have more access to the same kind of tech. You can perfect things using auto-tune or snapping things to grid if things are sloppy to make things sound exact and precise. The amount of interest we have listening to music is a bit more wishy-washy because we have access to so much music these days. It's less of a meaningful thing to connect with a particular album, for example. And then using AI to write music is taking a lot of the human element out of it. And his argument is all of that is a problem for music long term. I have lots of thoughts on that. Do you have initial takes on those kind of main points yourselves? Do you want to open with? Otherwise, we can go kind of piece by piece.
It's really hard to gather all my opinions on it. I just watched the videos today. Like I watched Fantano's response, and I also watched Become the Night. He did a response to both of them. But I think the idea that music is getting worse is it is a bit of a boomer take. I definitely understand where Rick Beato is coming from, and I totally respect his opinion because I love his content. He's a very, very knowledgeable, experienced musician. But I just feel like it's we can look at other art forms like movies too. You know, we have the paradox of choice with all these movies on Netflix and everything, but you know, there's still the odd hidden gems. And you can also argue that with so much music being out there, competition breeds innovation too. There's just an influx of more products out there, but there's still the outliers, and you just have to hunt for the outliers. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with his opinion, because like even there's an example of, I forget what kind of composer, but like classical music back in the 1800s. the idea of using piano to simplify arpeggios was considered taboo back in the day. So, and that's super outdated opinion to have now, right? So I think it's just tool technology continues to evolve, and I don't think music is getting worse, but I do understand where he's getting at, because there could be the argument that there's less classics, maybe because there's so much music, but I still think there's I don't know. I think there still could be classics to this day. Biased, and I think you'll agree, Steve, but I think Sleep Token the Summoning is a modern metal classic. It's like the Tool schism of this generation or something. But it's just, again, it's the outliers. And actually Sleep Token is a good example. Like, for a band where like we're all getting so much TikTok brain, so much music out there, and all of a sudden we hear everyone's resonating with this band, right? And then the band just blows up. There's always going to be outliers, and so I don't know.
The songs are like 8 minutes long as well. This
Exactly.
is not like ADHD stuff.
Yep, exactly. So I think they are a perfect band in the rock world. That's kind of against the argument that Rick Beato is making, but also, music is subjective. There's a lot of people who hate Sleep Token too, and say you can go to Fantano and they're just generic, using generic elements of all modern music, from generic jet guitars, generic trap beats. But I think it's more than just that. But I guess that's I don't know. I if you guys could dissect it a little bit more, because it's all fresh in my brain.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that he focused on, which kind of I didn't quite gel with, was he was saying it was so much better back in the day when you would have to essentially like work for ages to get a bunch of money together to go to your record store like once a month to buy a record, and that made that record really meaningful to you, and it made it more of a masterpiece, more of a connective thing. But there's every chance you bought the record and didn't like it, and it's like that's a month's worth of savings for a thing you didn't necessarily enjoy. So there was a thing back in the day, we'd hear a single and you'd go out and you spend £20 on an album, and then you'd go like, oh, that was the one good song. Fuck.
Yeah.
Whereas now I think it's great you have more access to a wider array of things, and people don't necessarily have to spend a bunch of money on something and at risk kind of taken kind of away. And the bands that could afford to do records and stuff, it's either they were supremely talented or they're one of the rare few, because it costs a lot of money to do that. So if your thing that you didn't know was your thing was like thrash metal, it would be really hard for you to find thrash metal in your local, radio stations, whatever it is. So you'd have less access to the thing that actually makes you tick, which I think is better now.
Yeah, you could also probably argue the opposite end of that as well, that with the access that we have to any album in the world that we want right now, having a physical copy of the album nearly says more about how much you value it, because you can literally have any album. So having a physical copy of one album is like, well, I could have anything in the world right now, and I don't necessarily, like, I buy vinyls to represent an album that I've absolutely adored for months on end, to like represent a particular period of time in my listening experience. So I don't have to buy that, because I don't really use my record player. I buy it again as that like token of time, and then I like to display it. Obviously, it's a bit of a display piece as well. There's an artistic flair to it as well. They all look nice, but the idea that I don't have to buy one to listen to that music, whereas before there was like, you bought records to listen to the music because that was the only way. Maybe there's other ways, but I'm too young for this. I don't know. I came into the digital streaming area, but you know what I mean? But
that's wild.
Point is that I don't necessarily have to have the albums, but if anything, that for me, you could spin that the other way and say like, well, there's actually more of an appreciation for the art behind it if you're actually going out of your way to buy it, when you can just get it for, like, I'm already paying my Spotify membership. I have the album there as it is, but yeah, like you said, there's so many different points that are touched on in his video that on first listen, it kind of sounds like he's making sense, and you're like, okay, I can agree with this. And then you just listen to Fantano's takes, and then you take in some other people's takes, and you start to kind of like, you know what? His original takes that I kind of somewhat heard him on, I'm now starting to slowly, bit by bit, I'm like walking back. I think one of the main things that Fantano highlighted that, I guess, to me really, I don't know, I guess really highlighted Rick Beato's, I don't want to be ageist here, but like Burb kind of alluded to, like it's a bit of a boomer take. Some of his takes are quite boomer. The stat that he pulled up, so Fantano kind of not exposed him on this, but the Google Trends that Fantano highlighted towards the end of his video, where Rick Beato basically said, "Oh, look at people searching for the word music on Google over the past like 20 years." So he took a snapshot of people who were searching for music in 2004, I think it was, like, 20 years ago. And it was like at 25, it was at 100%. I don't know exactly how the metrics work, but it was at 100%. And then today, the people who search for music is like 25%. So that to me was like, yeah, but
who's searching the word
yeah, no
music?
one searches for the word
Who's ever
music.
typed that out?
Yeah,
Who's ever in their life typed out
like,
music?
But Fantano made the point that, like, try not to be disrespectful to him as well. But he was like, that's such a boomer thing to do. That's why most people don't do that, because it's older people that are searching for music because they're like, I don't know how to use streaming services. I don't know how to use Spotify. I don't have a membership. I don't have iTunes. So if you're a bit older and you have access to the internet, the chances are you're going to type in music, and hence why that statistic is displayed as 100% in 2004 to 25% in 2024.
Yeah,
and he was trying to highlight that as like music isn't as big of a deal anymore. So I think that to me was kind of like the discrepancy that I think there's always going to be there between different generations, because it's like, it just, how you could look at that and think that way,
To add to your point, like his argument was kind of like, well, in my day, the way we bought records was the more connective way, and that really made us enjoy the music in a more fulfilling way, and that's how you find and discover like classics that are timeless. But I discovered Sleep Token in the modern era of Spotify, and I feel as enraptured with that album, in fact, more so than some of the albums I bought with my money I saved up in a record store ages ago. They were like monumentally important albums for me. Like, it's still possible. And the fact that there's way more artists available now because lower barrier of entry with technology help, it does mean you have to maybe listen to more music to get to the ones that are really interesting, really connect with you. But they absolutely exist in spades. Like, think about, I mean, this year has had its ups and downs, but last year, the amount of incredible music that came out last year in the metal world was obscene. Like, there was too much to process and check out. And that is in the full realm of the new technology that's going to help in those things. So those two things are not like mutually exclusive, I think, in terms of the potential of music. The delivery mechanism, I don't think, will impact whether the music is really appreciated or not.
Yeah, for sure. There was a really interesting quote that I seen from, I guess, to do with the points that Rick was making in his video about things being robotic, and especially the drums being quantized and very robotic. I seen a quote from an artist called Bjork, I think is how I pronounce it. They're an Icelandic singer. Have you seen this quote?
I was hoping someone would reference this, because that's a great quote to use. But
it's basically, I'll read it out exactly as the quote is. So again, it's nice. They're an Icelandic singer, songwriter, and composer. I'm not familiar with their music, but I think they make electronic music.
Massive.
Yeah. But I find it so amazing when people tell me that electronic music has no soul. You can't blame the computer. If there's no soul in the music, it's because nobody put it there. And I thought that was like a really good quote to, I guess, kind of in a very artistic way, argue the very robotic points that Rick is making about, quantizing drums. These are all tools that are there that the computer allows humans to use, but it still has to have a human element. And I think the audience, if they are into their music, will see through that straight away. And it's the same when I listen to music on stream or whatever, and I wouldn't be too versed in the world of like drum production or anything along those lines, but I'd have people that are in the chat that will, be drummers themselves or producers, and they'd be like, oh, I can hear the drums are quantized, and they'll instantly kind of tell me about it. And then I'm like, you know what? Now I can actually hear that there's a very robotic feel to it. So, it's still there. The love for it is still there, and it's not going to die out. And people still want that human thing. But the tool is there to be used, and it's up to the bands to decide whether or not they're going to actually go full scale with it or not.
Yes, but as what Bjork alludes to, is the cream will ride to the crop, because you can still inject humanity within that. I mean, we're talking predominantly in the rock universe, where part of the joy of it classically has been, which I still largely take into this, is hearing the human input and the looseness of that and the rawness of that is quite exciting to me, rather than things being super robotic. But you can do it in a way that still has feel. And there's some drum, like most drums these days in metalcore, are programmed in. Because for the reasons that Beato was saying, studio time's expensive. It's really hard to set up and mic up a drum kit. And once you've got it set up, you basically do the entire record in as quickly as you can, which is like 18 songs potentially. The chances of you playing the whole thing without any mistakes or lagging issues, not likely. But also, the band might decide they really want a very exact robotic, drum sound. That's fine. So most drums are programmed these days in the rock universe, but some, not all, are equal. Some are programmed and they're super robotic. Every cymbal sounds the exact same sample hit, and that takes you out of it, unless that's a sound you like. But very few people would like that as an example. But you can also program drums from the point of view of a drummer who would be playing it, and those are the ones that really work. Oralize is a good example of this. Those drums didn't sound programmed to me. They were, turns out, but the subtleties that the drummer knows can make sense and you could do around the kit works in a human way, and that comes through the music. That's like injecting the soul into it in that. But also, we're focusing largely on rock. Dance music is entirely snap to grid, right? And that's desirable. That's what they want, because that's what really helps that music kind of sing. But in that world, there is average whatever dance music, and then there's other stuff that really connects with the masses. I'm thinking things like Avicii. It's dance. It's very straightforward, but there's soul within it. The melodies, the composition, the way the song progresses. That's where the craft is, and that's why those will be the successful ones. I think that it will exist everywhere, and just again, the more people that are able to come into trying to make music, the more rare those spaces will be. But it's not that there is less of that. I think creativity within the world. It's just more of the other stuff that's trying to figure out how to be that good.
Yeah, for sure. There's an electronic duo from Belfast called Bicep. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Have you guys ever heard of them?
No.
Check them out. That's one of the best examples. As soon as you mentioned the VJ, I was like, the best example I can think of as a like EDM DJ. They're actually, I don't know if they're brothers or they're just friends or whatever, but they're like a duo that go under the alias of Bicep, and they make some of the most atmospheric, catchy. You'd probably know one of their songs. I'm not going to sing it out over here, but you'll definitely know one of their songs. I can send it to you after just to remind you, but they make such fantastic music, and they're one of the few, if not only, electronic artists that I listen to an album for. Like, I should literally like listen from start to finish. Otherwise, I don't really do that often, but these guys are just absolutely fantastic. And again, it's all robotic, it's all programmed. They're DJs, but the feel that they put into it is just, and I've seen them live as well, and they do it all. They all they go like back to back on their decks live, and it just adds this whole like creative flair to it as well. So they're a really good example. Bicep is the name of them. If people want to look it up on Spotify, just unbelievable, like atmospheric, trance-inducing EDM music. Yeah, so fucking good.
Yeah, part of this as well is preference. I might listen to that and be like, it's not really for me. I was thinking that I'm personally very impressed when bands are not playing to a backing track or a click. Now, it's not to say I don't appreciate bands that do, because for a lot of bands, that makes sense with the kind of music they're trying to put out live and logistics of, well, if we want to play this song live, we would need to bring a saxophonist with us on tour. We can't do that. So we need a backing track, so that comes in because it's important for the song. I'll get all that. And some people look for a very tight, clean production, and that's part of the joy of their sound. But recently I went to see Green Day at Wembley Stadium, and they did not play to a click, quite clearly. Sometimes they were slightly fast. Sometimes within the same song, they would change a little bit. But not by masses. It was actually paced incredibly well, because Trey Cool is a very dependable drummer. And that was, for me, really impressive and highlighted the experience more for me, because that's what I enjoy. I enjoy the danger of it feeling live, and that anything could happen. The beat could go a bit too fast. The drummer could come in a little bit too early. The singer might not be ready. So when a band does pull that off and play really well, I'm even more impressed and enjoy it more. A couple of moments when they had to stop the show because someone was injured, and they were able to just stop it immediately and then go, all right, from the second chorus, and then just count in and go. There was no like, hang on, let me get back to the point in the track. And again, there's no shade against anyone that's using those backing tracks, but I love the looseness of that, because that's a preference that I have. My intro into rock music was through those kinds of bands. So it speaks to me when I can see just a bunch of human beings on stage making this incredible sound. That's what I personally really respond to and enjoy.
Mhm.
And it might be that that's a similar thing for Beato, but that you can't discount that that's not necessarily what everyone wants, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
There's
think,
there's so much in that video. Like it's just,
yeah.
you could break it down section by section. But have you got anything to add on that one?
Yeah, you need to do another video essay or something on it, but it is worth talking about it because people have asked me, even family, saying like, do you think there's going to be classics anymore? And it kind of goes hand in hand with what Beato's saying, and I still think there will be, but and I also understand the whole live feeling, and there's something human about that. And you know, most modern rock and metal is very quantized and like very robotic too, but you know, it works really well too. So like, it's just like what you're saying, Steve, that there's just an audience for certain different types of sounds and experiences. You know, we grew up with more live rock and metal, I guess. So I guess I am a little bit more keen on the more raw sound. Another thing that I want to mention is just like the amount of music, and there's so much music out there that, you know, you have ADD brain is kind of like what they're alluding to, that there's just so much that nothing actually resonates. You don't work for it. You don't save your money to buy these albums and enjoy these albums. But, you know, I think with the amount of music that we listen to for what we do, reactors, we're always checking out music. There's tons of albums that I keep going back to. Every Time I Die Radical, which came out 2 years ago, is still like a default record to me. You know, as much as I've probably heard so many records, like 30 or 40 records this year so far, and like I'm still going back to Every Time I Die. I'm still going back to Sleep Token. Like there's so the whole argument that there's just so much music out there that you just want the next best thing. I don't agree with either. So
Yeah, 100%. And I find that I have now a couple of versions of what I listen to. One is like a playlist of my absolute favorite singles, like all the bangers. I'll just go through. But then other ones are just albums I keep coming back to and just adore. Like The Surface by Beartooth. Any day of the week, I might put that on. Or Sleep Token, obviously. Or I'll just put a playlist of just like Void of Vision. Because I just, or Deftones, all the Deftones stuff. Like it doesn't, there's some that I just always come back to. And that can happen in the last few years as well. It's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any risk to the influence of AI on music? What do you think that might do in the it's not really hit the metal universe as yet, other than what was it, Boy What, which I've still not checked out. But what's your take on the risks of AI taking away the jobs from musicians and songwriters? Do you have a take on that, Drew? Solve the problem for the world, Drew.
Yeah. I mean, the only real experience I've had with listening to anything that's like an AI project and it's just like out and out, I am an AI project, is like you mentioned, Boy What, and the music is so good. Like, but again, the dude writes the music, like he writes the songs, so there's a human touch to it. Like, it's not like he's plugging in, hey, write me a song that's catchy. He is singing the songs and using like a voice changer in terms of like the AI stuff. So I think a lot of people have it misinterpreted that.
So that's not really the...
Yeah, so he's not really like, he's using AI to, but again, that's a good example of where AI can be very useful, and like it can create a whole new fucking realm of metal music. It's like almost a new subgenre within metal. Like it's like plankton core has actually become a thing over the last year. Like just what's going on in the world. But it's genuinely become so popular because it kind of started to me on TikTok as like, again, the low barrier to entry. You know, anyone can get involved. People who are just like not even into metal music were just like, oh, let's just get this software and make Plankton say this, and then let's just, you know, use this plugin to, you know, whatever. And like, you end up having, you know, all of the shit gets filtered out because people stop listening to it. But then you have something that really comes out of it that's absolutely fantastic, which is Boy What. And to be honest, there was something about like when I was doing my like end of year videos last year, I was so on the fence and I ended up not going for it. But some of the choruses that he wrote were like some of my top choruses of the year. Like when I think about the songs that I sang the most in my head. Now I chose not to do it because part of me just felt, I don't feel wrong about it. Like ultimately I didn't really care. Like, oh, people are going to think there's AI in this and go mad. It was just more like, I kind of seen it as a gimmicky thing, which I still kind of do. There's still an element of like, it's a gimmick because it's fucking Plankton, like singing a song. but like the chorus is slapped so hard. Like there's just so many good songs that he created last year. And like if you go back to the metalcore talk that we had, it was like metalcore music, but it was so experimental and creative. It like ticked all the boxes that I was talking about earlier. It was like experimental. There was groovy sections in it, and then there was like insane melodies, like some of the best melodies I heard. So the AI conversation is huge. It's way out of my pay grade. You know, I don't know how much I can talk about it, but like that for me is the only thing I've experienced in our world is the boy what shit, man. It's fucking cool. But I know there's obviously musicians that do it full time that are like, oh, this could be a problem, you know?
Well, AI is extremely complicated conversation. And like anytime I do a podcast with a musician, I try to pick their brain about how they feel about AI. And Johnny from Health says like AI is just, it's still stupid at this point is pretty much how he sums it up. It's not quite there, but definitely in the future, it's going to be more apparent. But the idea of AI, I don't know if I agree with. In general, I just, you know, the technology is inevitable. If we don't use it, we're going to be left in the dust. So AI is going to be here. It's going to be more prevalent, but I wish there wasn't AI, to be honest, because say, for example, Chat GPT, if a lyricist or is having issues with writing, it can help with writer's block. So I guess it's very fortunate. Oh, cool. Like it can help. But guess what? I feel like that's almost kind of cheating in a way where you're kind of using a tool to figure out what's actually in there for you, and you're getting help. So there's, and also we can talk about the graphic design portion, which definitely is apparent right now. A lot of graphic design, a lot of artwork is AI, a lot of music videos are AI, and it's taking work from graphic designers, which is a definite problem. There's times where they actually hire graphic designers, like they did for Northlane's new EP Mirror's Edge, which is an AI artwork, but it was designed by a graphic designer that understood the tool to still create something that they wanted. So there's ways to use the tool, but there's also ways to just cheat and use the tool, simplify it, and make very generic artwork, I guess. Right. So I think the whole conversation about AI, I personally am not a fan of it, but it's just the way of the future. It's going to help. It's going to be a tool. It's going to be an asset. But I think that's maybe where I was talking about earlier, that I like the raw. I might be a little bit of Rick Beato here, and I like the hard work that goes into it and trying to do the best to your capabilities without the aid of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because you used the word cheating there, and I disagree that it would be cheating, but I guess it would be if what you like and value is the more raw, like human input thing. Because like the version of ChatGPT helping you finish your thought in a lyric, like it's kind of just a tech version of like a thesaurus. I can't think of this word. What is it? And you go look up an thesaurus, which is a tool. They say, oh, well, this is another synonym for the kind of thing you're saying. Then you can find some rhymes that way. It's just the risk is how far you take it potentially. So if the more of that you use, the more we'll have the compounding problem of like metalcore all sounding very similar these days, because AI will just become very homogenized. It'll all be very generic things they know everyone likes and it all works. All songs, all lyrics will be the same thing in future when it all kind of goes down that direction. And that will be uninteresting. But when that happens, as the pendulum swings in life, people will be seeking out what is not that thing. And it'll be that become the thing that people then go to, is what is anti-homogenous, generic, as appealing as it might be. And that's how you ended up with things like metal in the first place. Metal has not been around forever. Like that would have been a response to whatever's going on in the very pop kind of 50s, 60s swing, whatever it was, perhaps. I don't know how old metal is, but it's probably in that, I guess, 60s, 70s, perhaps. It would have been a reaction to against the status quo, same with punk music. So we're at a bit of a crest of a wave with these things happening, and we're going to notice things getting a little bit samey and a little bit uninteresting. Jesus Christ, Steve. But I think that will bust. And interestingly, there was a band I checked out on a stream recently called Flesh Water. You ever heard of them? This is like a newish band. I was like, cool, check this out. The song came out like a year ago. The music video looks like it's from the 90s. The song sounds like it's from the 90s, like grungy, indie rock stuff. It is so old school. And it just kind of blows my mind that is something that people have created now. It's not very interesting, especially if you were listening to music back then. It's not different. The melodies aren't even that good. but it's a sort of anti-current modern sound thing, which makes it stand out and is interesting. I think Static Dress are a kind of similar thing as well. They're sort of, it's an old school emo indie sound, which has come back for some reason. And that feels reactive to what is the more polished and big sounded things going on. So like there'll always be some swings. And in some of those, there will be things that will cut through. They're like mistakes in evolution that actually change everything. And I think we're just in a bit of the eye of a strange storm, perhaps. And on the crest of a wave. I'm getting all visual.
I know, all water related though.
Guys, it's all about the water.
But how would you feel if AI was number one in the billboards, or like won a Grammy for Song of the Year, and it was all AI generated, but you can't deny that it was a really good song and you loved it too?
Now, that's a really interesting question, because part of that is, if you know that it's AI, does that change it? So let's say we don't know that it was AI. In Drew's world, would it tick the 3 boxes? It's got a great chorus. Let's assume it does. Melodies are great.
It has all of it.
Has all of it. So it was slightly different, slightly interesting. And what was the third one?
Melody, groove, and
there's melody, groove.
That was it.
The other one's a little bit less hard to define, but it's like
that's something different, something a little bit
something different. You know?
Okay, it's got all of those, and it's a fucking great song. Everyone loves it. I suspect the only thing that would be an issue is if you found out it was AI, then you'd be like, oh. But I think it's the knowledge of that would change it. Potentially. Like, what if, even further than that, what if it came out that the entire Sleep Token discography was AI created, and actually no human was involved at all? Would that change how you feel about the lyrics, about the music?
I feel like
I want to add to this, because just to what you were touching on earlier on, Steve, is you mentioned the Oralized album is programmed drums. And I know you were saying that, like, to you it didn't make a difference because you couldn't tell. But I think what you're saying here is kind of similar to what I was thinking. It's like sometimes just knowing something, even though it doesn't sound robotic, sometimes the idea of like someone's planted that in your head that this isn't actually a human. There's something about it. You know what I mean? That just kind of like, you've gone and ruined it for me. You know, even though it could sound the exact same as a human, but you know, just when you get down to the real technicalities of music, when you become a fucking music nerd or snob or whatever, it's like those things do matter, you know? To the naked ear, like,
this is what we're getting at, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with you. I'm more aligned to that, but like, that's not.
But if you're saying that the Sleep Token thing, I guess it's the same kind of thing then. If it's AI, if it's quantized, if it's like, they're both computers that are doing it, so it's kind of the same thing, no? Like, if you're saying, how would you feel if Taking Me Back to Eden was partly AI? But you don't mind that the drums are robotic. You know what I mean? It's like, is that not the same thing? Are we not in the same world there? I know you haven't given your answer on how you would feel about Taking Me Back to Eden, but I just kind of want to like bring it back to you saying that, like, oh yeah, I don't have a problem with the Oralized album being like, you know, programmed drums.
Yeah, I think that's different for me, because it's the programmed aspect of it is the tool they've used to express their drumming skills in audio form to a high quality audio. So they didn't play it by shaking the sticks and hitting the skins, but they played it by designing that on the record. That's not the same thing as AI, I think. AI is...
To what extent?
So, like,
the whole album, so like the
creation.
vocals are... So when you're talking about like Sleep Token's album, if we use that for example, so everything is like a command, essentially.
Yeah. Or
like,
even if it was
album.
just the vocals, right? Everything else is human input. It's just the vocals are completely AI. I think still I'd be like, oh.
Yeah, see, imagine if there's no, but my original question is, imagine a song with no human input, right? We're talking about programmed drums, but that's still human input. But imagine a song that everyone loves and it's number one, but it was actually all computer generated. Everything.
I think the difference would be, and I could be wrong, I'm just trying to figure this out. If I didn't know at the time, and I listened to it and I enjoyed it and I loved it, I thought it was made by humans and I loved it, and I found out later on it was actually AI generated, I think I would be disappointed and it would change how I feel about it. If I knew before hearing it, by the way, this is created by AI, and I loved the song, I think I'd be fine with it because the expectation is set immediately. Like, oh, fine, I'll just enjoy this computer generated song, and actually, it's a fucking great song. I think that's it's finding out that the thing has the wizard behind that's like not real, like Wizard of Oz kind of style. It's the disturbance in expectation somehow, maybe.
Yeah. I think the first emotion for me would be, oh fuck, we're here, we're in the future.
Yeah.
Like the first time that happens, it's like, oh, you know, I think like Steve said, if I hear it first and like if it's top of the Billboard or whatever, I'm sure it's a fucking catchy song and it's a very good song. But actually, that's not true. If it's top of Billboard, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not. But you know what I mean? It probably has some redeemable quality somewhere that the masses enjoy. But finding out it's fully AI, because it's hard to even comprehend right now, because I've heard fully AI songs, and I think most of us can tell these days it's very obvious. Well, not very obvious, but it is there. Like I've heard people like request, hey, check this out.
They're not good enough yet.
They're not good enough yet. So it's kind of hard to even go that far down. I hope that far down I don't know. I don't even know if I hope or not, because but whatever. It's kind of hard to even put yourself in that position right now, because I've not actually really been exposed to something AI that has got me to the point where I'm like, oh my God, this doesn't sound in any way, shape or form robotic. It's not there, like you guys said. So time will tell.
AI videos are even getting more impressive too. Like the technology, it's not just now the fingers are obviously way more defined, but there's so much more to it. Like I'm seeing like there's a cool or AI bot that takes memes and basically transforms them into videos.
Oh, I've seen
and
that.
It's and it's like it looks really, really good, and it just has me worried that like the art world, right? Art world is all about the human touch and the human brain, and then AI will be able to replicate that and take that over. Like I find that so strange, and I think it's inevitable, like with graphic design and artists now getting worried, and music videos, and next it's going to be music. We're definitely not there, like you were just saying. I heard Frank Sinatra do Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit, and it was hilarious. It was awesome. But yeah, you can still tell it's AI, but give it like, I don't know, imagine like 30 more years from now and kids will
not
be like
even
yeah, and then just hearing like their artists like, oh no, this is actually this guy who's Nirvana, this is actually this person's song. Like no, it's AI, and you can't differentiate the two. I don't know.
That's
also, I'm not you're kind of, I don't know, this is maybe devil's advocate a little bit, but you know, if computers can make better and more captivating art than a digital artist, maybe we don't need the digital artist. I'm really going hard here. Like, for example, there was a point where people invented cars, and there were entire industries on horse and cart. And like, well, is it really the same feeling if you get there on a machine than on your trusty steed that you have a bond with? Like, what could possibly replace that? Is this the modern day's version of that? Where it's like, well, the poor artists, like, maybe we don't need them anymore.
Yeah, but I think yours is like a very functional thing. Like, obviously, the example, I know you just used a random example, but like cars, and it's like an obvious thing. Like, oh, well, I'm going to take a fucking car. Like, leave the horse at home. Leave Steve, the trusty steed, at home. But I had to use that.
Yeah, I know.
But the, like, art, obviously, is so subjective. And I think, if anything, I could see him, obviously, 100 years down the line, who knows? It's progressing at such a rapid rate. It's just anyone's guess. But like art, to me, if I look at it just purely from my own opinion of it, I think it will almost just become a more, I guess, accepted subcategory of art, because like it doesn't impress me. And I know obviously the argument is like, well, what if you can't tell if it's a human or a robot anymore? But it's like, I guess it will just become its own like niche within art. It's like, this is AI art. I know it already is there, but like, I don't know. I feel like if anything, like Steve was saying, the pendulum swinging, it will just be like, right, well, like this is a robot, who gives a fuck? Like, it's just a prompt. There's no skill involved. You know what I mean? But having someone sit down and paint something is what gives that value. You know what I mean? It's like, that is where the value lies. And I know, like, I mean, I know that's obviously like, you know, that's an obvious take. It's like, that's where the value, but again, that pendulum swinging back and forth. At the moment, it's kind of a trend. Oh, it's cool to have AI artwork, but it's like, yeah, but I don't know.
Here's a
It's
mad
like
look to the
my brain.
future that might put a spanner in the works here a little bit as an interesting thought. My first version of this, when I was thinking about AI and video generated things, is there will be a point in the future at some stage where you could ask AI to create for your family a Disney style Pixar movie where the protagonist is called, insert name of your child here, and they go on a journey to try and find the best popcorn in the world, blah blah blah, and then it just generates, and you watch this incredible 90-minute Pixar movie all about the things that are in your worlds. Like, that will happen one in the future. And here's the thing about potential of AI music. What if, at the moment we're saying, well, it's not going to be as connective or interesting for us if there's not a human being involved. But what if, Drew, you could feed into the AI exactly what your relationship was like of a particular person that you're mourning, whatever it is, and then AI knows your musical preferences, knows the 3 pillars you like, knows all your favorite songs from Spotify, and it generates for you an insanely good song that taps into the patterns of what it knows will make it an emotional experience for you, with the lyrics, with the swell, with the everything. Like, what if you could have that experience of total catharsis of this song that just knows every button you have? Because essentially we are, pattern, predictable animals to some degree, and it just unlocks everything in this perfect sonic masterpiece. Would you not want that?
That was the best pitch I've ever heard, Steve. I'd like to invest in your company. 100,000 quid.
You have 100,000 quid though.
Oh man, I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, when you put it like that, of course, it's like, that sounds great, but I don't know. It's like all of the other things that come along with that. Like, even you touching on, like, down the line, this will happen where you can key in these prompts and a movie will be generated for your family. Well, there goes the entire film industry. All of the actors are no longer needed. So, like, it's not exclusive. I know we obviously, we're a metal podcast, but we keep it very metal. But, like, it's not exclusive to us. It's like industries are going to be wiped out. Like, one of my close friends works in the film industry. Like, well, like he's a cinematographer by trade, so he works with brands and, like, putting together promotional pieces. And he's genuinely, like, concerned. He's got his ear to the ground when it comes to, like, his industry, and he's seeing things already where it's like, wow, there's certain things that used to take a lot of human input that the person that is buying that product will not care about. Like, oh, how did the person who's buying his advert or his video that he might be putting together doesn't care how you get from A to B. They just want something that's going to make their product or their business look good. So how you get there is not of their concern. So if they can cut out the cost of that middleman, they're going to do it. Yeah. So that's obviously his concern. So it's industries that could potentially get wiped out. Who knows? Is there going to be, like, government stepping in and saying, well, look, we can't afford the economic hit that's going to come from this entire industry being wiped out because AI can be done with a few clicks of a button. But yeah, it's one of those, it's literally one of the only things that I kind of run out of things to say on. I'll talk shit about anything. But when it comes to AI, I'm like, I just don't fucking know. Like, who knows what's going to happen,
Yeah. Well, to answer Steve's question, I just feel like it's too novelty. There's a prompt that for everything that I want in a song, it's just novelty. I'm like, oh, this is so cool to hear AI, but I don't know if it necessarily tickles the brain of something that has the human touch too. But also, as predictable as we are as a species, like, we also, like, can be unpredictable too. Like, maybe at this time, like, or when I prompt that into Spotify AI and I get that song, I'm like, okay, this is cool. But then next day I want something completely different. I just feel like would be impossible to please all the senses with one song, but who knows? Yeah. And then with the movie, Pixar prompting all your favorite actors and who you like, what you want in a movie. I feel like halfway through AI will screw up and, like, there'll be, like, a deadly car accident. Like, no. I think with technology, I think AI is going to take over the world. That's pretty much how I sum it up. And I like your point about, like, if there's going to be government control, if it's wiping out industries. That's actually a really interesting thought, that who knows, maybe the use of AI could be illegal if it's hurting the economy in some sort of way too, that they have to enforce some things. And then, there could be bandits that, like, creating things with AI, like, oh no, get him. Like, I don't know. It just seems like a weird weird apocalyptic kind of world or something.
Yeah, I've seen that already. Like, I mean, now a lot of it you might see as just like your typical kind of scaremongering in newspaper headlines of like government threatens to shut down AI because they're going to, you know. But there's definitely like, you know, we're getting into some whole fucking different ball game here. But like, you know, if there's
let's go
certain industries that are getting fucking taken down, you know, you might see the government step in and say, well, hold on a minute, this is not in our interest for the economic future of our country to allow this to happen. So let's pull the plug on this. But then again, AI is so powerful and is developing at such a rate that a 14-year-old kid in their mother's basement can have a computer and the internet and can do whatever the fuck they want with AI. So how do you monitor that? We're going down some very tinfoil hat areas.
And if
here.
other countries that you are not in alliances with are going to just go balls to the wall with AI, and they might have a massive advantage over you economically, that's a problem. So you wouldn't want to completely not do it. Yeah, we're in a potentially spicy time. But
yeah, for sure.
Bringing us back to music, I think, as I was alluding to before, there'll be reactions and responses to this, and like what will become the value. Like, no one's going to go to a I say no one. People will. Most people will not be that jazzed about going to a concert to all gather together and watch like an AI generated kind of performance, I would think, over seeing like live human beings in front of you actually talking to you, talking about the songs they wrote that was based on their own life experience, that kind of thing. I think live music would be the last bastion of what music really becomes. And already we're kind of heading in that direction, certainly financially for musicians. Live music is where the money is made.
I would like to interject, please, because I think you are thinking of, I know like the music that we listen to is very heavily focused from the live experiences going to see your favorite band members. But if we look outside of that, and I spent a lot of years going to raves and DJs and, you know, things that are, you know, traditionally a lot more popular than our music. And from my own experience for years, I didn't give a fuck about who was up there. If the music is good, I genuinely don't care. So I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah. No,
but I think that is the flip side of it, you know, that like if people will really always care about who's up on that stage is still up for debate. And this is where, again, I just get into this like, oh my God, I actually don't know. You know what I mean? It's like that one conversation that I just...
I don't think
no, it's a good point.
Yeah. That's wrong.
I think maybe it just comes down to personal preference. I will always enjoy more, I think, the live human element at concerts. I'm a sucker for that.
For sure.
So yeah, the general consensus is that we still like the human experience. Which
currently, yeah. Despite my best efforts to champion the AI utopia in future. But yes. Speaking of music, maybe to pivot away as we close down our chat today, what have you listened to? Maybe it's not been a new release, but in the last month or two that you think is kind of on the exceptional realm, you like actually has stayed with you and you're listening to a lot continuously still? Burb, do you have anything?
Yeah, so actually, it's not metal, but Childish Gambino's new song has been really, really good. I feel like when there's like a little bit of a lull in metal, like I'm looking at other genres of music, and Childish Gambino, if you guys are probably familiar with him. He's massive.
Yes.
Like,
he's not heard the recent stuff, but yeah. This is America. It was an amazing song.
Yeah, it was really cool. This one's much more vibey. It's got a good summer feel to it too, and it also sounds raw. Like, and speaking of like the human touch, like this feels like a emotive, easy listening song. So it's really, really good. No music video or anything, but definitely worth the time to check it out. Another artist that I absolutely adore, but it's not metal related. But he's always like the perfect party kind of vibe. But are you guys familiar with Baby No Money?
No.
No. Okay, he's hilarious. Him and his buddy Young Gravy, they're both like
what are those names?
I've heard Young Gravy.
And then when they actually team up, they have like a collab album and they call themselves Young Gravy. Like they're so stupid, but like they write hits. Like they actually, speaking of like TikTok ADD brain, like I feel like a lot of their songs, the beats and the rhythms of the music are just so incredibly infectious. Just natural talent. So Baby No Money has a new song too that is just awesome. Even Eminem actually DM'd him saying like this song's sick. And so also Eminem's dropping some new stuff. So like, yeah, a lot of things are not happy in the metal world, I feel like, but like in hip hop and other things, it's a little bit more bumping.
I'm looking forward to the comments being like, "You guys don't even listen to metal. They're calling this the metal roundup."
Yeah,
Bill Murray, fuck off.
I know, Bilmuri. Let's see. Well, what's actually been good? Breakaway dropped a new song too that was pretty solid.
Solid is exactly what I said it was. It's decent. I think they're going to be great in future. They're working on it.
Well, dude, they've blown up. They got to like 150,000 monthly listeners.
I'm
on
not
Spotify.
saying they're not popular, but for my own rating, I'm like, I think in future they're gonna write some great stuff. But right now, there's good ideas, but they're not well defined yet. But they're very interesting.
I like it, and I think a lot of people are resonating with it because it's got very poppy vocals. It's like Ariana Grande style vocals. Yeah, so I know that people are really liking it, and but I did do the first time not title my videos "Female Sleep Token." Instead, Sleep Token Spirit Box fans listen, and guess what? My TikTok right now is for my original one, 1.3 million views for Female Sleep Token. And then this TikTok for Spirit Box and Sleep Token, 2,000 views. So,
wow.
You can hate on the whole, they're their own band, or don't call them the Female Sleep Token, whatever. But like, I think the band is just like, oh, keep calling us the Female Sleep Token, please.
I think there is also on that point as well. There's also an element of with the way the TikTok algorithm and short form content works in general. Like, because I've heard both songs. Which was the song that was it Outside that like got the 1.2 million, or was it was the other one before that?
Well, it was their original song that did really well, and then Outside is the one that got 1.3 million views. So they both did really well respected.
Yeah, because I've listened to all three of them now, and to me, I didn't really like their first one, but I do hear the Sleep Token comparison for sure. But the second one to me was the good one that I've heard from the three of them so far. The third one, I'm much the same as Steve. I definitely heard more Spirit Box than what you were saying. Definitely Spirit Box. But like obviously there's an element of the song has to click as well. So just to like not put yourself down in terms of like, because not using the Sleep Token. Sometimes the song just has to like hit as well, and not just the title as well. You know.
It's very true.
Yeah, like it's not just going to be like, if I use Sleep Token, because sometimes you can use Sleep Token in the title and it doesn't necessarily do well. It's not always like the end all be all. I know it definitely does help, but because Spirit Box are a huge name as well, so in theory having Spirit Box and Sleep Token in the same title should definitely fucking send it off. But I do think that the latest song, I'm much the same as Steve. I think you were there, Steve, when I was checking it out in the first place, but it was kind of like it was good. I think because of how young they are, it's quite impressive. And I'd say even there, like, what the fuck are we gonna do? Like, they've probably got way more success already than they could have ever even imagined. So, you know, the sky's the limit. But I think, like Steve said, they're just not quite there yet. I think
they're good. I can feel that in the future they're going to be really exceptional if they keep at it.
Yeah, for sure.
In my world, I've only recently discovered the band called Elwood Stray. And I'm fucking digging what they are doing. It's just relentless groove and punch and riffage, and it's amazing. And it's got some choruses that are pretty nice as well. They're great. And then there was a song I checked out recently from a band I'd never heard of before called Prompts. And what was fun about that is when I looked that up to check it out on the stream, the second video was Metalburb's face. We were like, this song is fucking insane. I think it was like, this is the highest rated song of the year or something. It's called Sun Eater.
Yeah.
That was mental.
That song's relentless.
Good fun.
Still one of my favorite songs of the year, just in terms of just pure energy and just like pedal to the metal kind of thing.
Different. Like it's 3 songs kind of in one. It's quite a journey. So yeah, Prompts are interesting for sure.
Yeah, they're very cool.
Drew, anything on your radar before we wrap up?
The last time we spoke, I hadn't listened to the new Mirror album. I hadn't listened to it. I think Runty and Burb were the only ones that listened to it. Fucking hell. One of my favorite EPs / albums of the year. So ridiculous.
Wow.
Like I was saying, I completely agree that it's like at some points it's forklift core. Like it sounds like a fucking forklift with drums behind it and like crazy guitars. It's
I've never heard them. It's outrageous.
I've coined the term forklift core. I'm completely on with it. Like no one can have it. Okay, it's mine. But it's forklift core, all right? It sounds ridiculous. It's silly. It's stupid, but it's probably the most I've enjoyed a Thall album since I heard Mustad and Ratten by Viljarta. It's just so fucking stupidly hilarious. Like again, it's the three pillars that I talk about. It has no fucking melody in it. Well, it does in certain areas because the what's his name? One of the guys in the band is like a fucking classically trained guitarist, so he knows what he's doing when it comes to like, you know, lead work melodies and stuff like that. He's very honed in that area, but some ridiculous grooves. But the experimentation on it is outrageous. Like the song that breaks into like a hardstyle track, like hardstyle and thall music, just somehow it's like my childhood and it's like my early teenage years. It's like one of the grooviest songs I've heard all year. And then it just goes and starts going into, and I'm like, what is going on? So some songs lost me. I was like, what the fuck is happening? But the songs that hit, I was like, this is some of the most fun I've had this year. So that's one of my favorite projects.
Was it Oslo? Mirror Oslo
and Rose Bonbon are my favorite tracks on that album. They're so dumb. It's hilarious. Like it's just like,
I gotta check this out.
I mean, in the most complimentary way possible. It's like a nice bite-sized EP of like 25 minutes or 28 minutes or something. And Oslo and Rose Bonbon were the two playlist tracks for me. The other ones were like, this is cool, but way too far. But something else. There's a new project that I think is dropping a new EP tomorrow. I heard one single. Again, it's like thall music. It's null. It's DYSTHYMIC. I've never seen that word in my life, but it's, again, just balls to the wall, groovy thall. First single came out not too long ago, and their EP is dropping like tomorrow. If you're into extreme groovy thall, progressive thall, it's right up your street. And then I know Burb knows this one for sure because I seen he included it in his top 5 of last month. I think it's Being One, House of Protection, with Arik from Night Versus as drums. I was listening to that song and I was like, this drumming is phenomenal. It's like drum and bass. It's like a drum and bass song. It's not even metal, but it's like synth work and drum and bass. Steve, I think you'll really like it. The drumming is,
I think I've checked it out. I've checked out all of their singles so far. They're very good.
That was my first song I heard, and I was like, who the fuck is their drummer? And then someone in the stream was like, that looks like Arik. And I was like, it does look like Arik. And I was like, that's why. So they're my kind of shout outs. Our Common Collapse have been doing cool things. They've been creating some fucking ridiculous, again, thall music. So yeah, apparently I'm the biggest thall fan in the world over the last month or so, but yeah.
It is the modern metal is thall, but yeah, actually speaking of House of Protection, that is a really cool project, and it's produced by Jordan Fish. It's basically remnants of Fever 333 because they disbanded, and
musicians from it.
Yeah, musicians from it, and also like they're also legends. Like Steve, the guitarist singer, was also in the Chariot back in the day, which is like a very old school, in your face metalcore band. So yeah, that's a cool project. But I forgot to mention, there's other projects. There's Ollie Steele, who put out a really solid EP with Adam Benjamin from Aviations on vocals. Like, if you want that Monument style guitar work, but with more with like pleasant sounding vocals, something a little bit soothing, that EP is really, really good. And then there's a artist called Vower, and they just dropped an EP this Monday, which I haven't listened to, but there's 2 singles that are awesome. So if you're into bands like Thrice and Dillinger Escape Plan, then
I'm going to see them live in a couple of weeks. They're playing at Radar Festival, which I'm going to up in Manchester. So I'll report back.
Nice. Well, they the vocalist was from Palm Reader. Remember, they were a UK band. Yeah, they were a UK band too. So solid stuff. Again, I'm hearing a lot of Thrice in their music, and I fucking love Thrice. So Vower is definitely worth your time if you're into those bands. But other than that, yeah, tomorrow is busy. We got the Home Team, Wind Waker. Another album is dropping too that I'm blanking. But In Heart's Wake is dropping an album too. So yeah,
busy times. We'll see what it's like. I'm so stoked about the Wind Waker album. I've loved all their stuff. It's been fun. Catchy stuff, also heavy, and there's a bit of electronics, a bit of hip hop. It's fun. It's upbeat. It's my jam.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks, folks. It's been a lovely chat. We've solved AI and technology,
government policies.
Yeah.
Everything.
We figured it all out. So thank you for listening and enjoying this. If you haven't yet, do hit the subscribe button so you can see more of these podcast episodes in future. And we'll have a look at getting another guest, perhaps in the next episode, another guest reactor to chat to. and have some more conversations there. Thank you, Burb and Drew. I'm not going to thank myself today, just to
Thanks,
be different.
Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, cheers, folks. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Peace.